On this Sunday night, a formal nod to Palestinian statehood. Canada, the UK, Australia, and other countries officially recognize the state of Palestine despite U.S. opposition. Remembering right-wing activist Charlie Kirk.
I need to mourn Charlie, and I wanted to be with the fellow patriots.
When he passed away, it was gut-wrenching. It really was.
Mourners gather in Arizona to pay their last respects. Canadian road trippers.
Traditionally, we'd have about 25% of our Canadian rentals enter the United States, where this year that's down to 8%.
Shifting RV trends show an increasing number of travelers are skipping the U.S. And hope is in the air.
We all think we have universal access to health care, and the reality is we don't.
The charity going the extra mile to connect patients with the care they need.
Global National, reporting tonight, Ann Gaviola.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. To the significant and symbolic shift in foreign policy and the push for lasting peace in Gaza. Today, Canada formally recognized the state of Palestine while also condemning Hamas, joining the UK and Australia, piling even more pressure on Israel to end the humanitarian suffering. The recognition of a two-state solution was made on the eve of what will be a high-stakes United Nations summit this week, aimed at bringing an end to the decades-long conflict. Prime Minister Carney will be there. In a statement earlier today, he said, since 1947, it has been the policy of every Canadian government to support a two-state solution for lasting peace in the Middle East. That this envisioned the creation of a sovereign, democratic, and viable state of Palestine, building its future in peace and security alongside the state of Israel. The U.S. is not on board and does not support a two-state solution. And no surprise, Israel firmly rejected it. Mackenzie Gray has our top story tonight.
It's a move that's been telegraphed for weeks.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025.
But Sunday, Mark Carney made it official, marking one of the biggest Canadian foreign policy changes in decades. While Canada is under no illusions that this recognition is a panacea, this recognition is firmly aligned with the principles of self-determination and fundamental human rights.
Canada has long been committed.
The Prime Minister had promised recognition if the Palestinian Authority made significant governance reforms. There'd be general elections in 2026 that Hamas could not participate in, and the Palestinians demilitarize. None of those conditions have been met, but senior Canadian government officials tell Global News the Palestinian Authority has made concrete changes to education curriculums and treatment of prisoners, enough for Canada as well as Australia and the UK.
With the actions of Hamas, the Israeli government escalating the conflict, and settlement building being accelerated in the West Bank, the hope of a two-state solution is fading. But we cannot let that light go out.
Carney giving similar rationale, pointing to Hamas's refusal to recognize Israel and a vote in the Knesset calling on the annexation of the West Bank. The Allies' official recognition drawing quick condemnation from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I have a clear message for those leaders who recognize a Palestinian state after the horrific massacre on October 7th. You're giving a huge reward to terrorism. That view is also held by the Americans, something Carney dismissed. Recognizing the state of Palestine, led by the Palestinian Authority, empowers those who seek peaceful coexistence and the end of Hamas. This in no way legitimizes terrorism, nor is it any reward for it. Hamas's October 7th attack killed 1,200 people and saw 251 others taken hostage, according to Israeli tallies. Israel's ensuing campaign has killed more than 65,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, according to the Gaza Health Authority. And Canadian government officials admitted the legal recognition of Palestine is unlikely to make a difference in the short term. France, who is expected to recognize Palestine in the coming days, believes this is the only viable path forward.
Let's isolate Hamas. And let's focus on the dismantling of Hamas from a military and a political point of view.
Emmanuel Macron will co-host a meeting of world leaders at the UN General Assembly on Monday to discuss a two-state solution, and it's expected that Mark Carney will speak at it.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. Some are accusing Canada, the UK and Australia of, quote, rewarding terrorism, including the federal Conservative Party. And Canadian Jewish groups say the government is cowering to international pressure. Heather Yourex-West reports on the reaction here at home as Israel intensifies its offensive in Gaza City.
In central Gaza, exhausted families are once again on the move. It's my right to leave and flee to a safe space, but I can't afford it, says this Palestinian woman. So I ended up walking all the way here. Palestinian Canadian Omar helped some of his family evacuate last week.
It costed me around $3,000 to $5,000 just to get them from Gaza City to the south. I still have my sister, one sister, her 3 kids and husband are still stuck in Gaza City as I'm trying to send them money.
The Hamas-run health authority estimates 31 Palestinians were killed Sunday as Israeli forces continue to escalate its operations. The Israeli army releasing this footage Sunday of its tanks preparing to deploy into a city where the IDF estimates 600,000 people remain.
It's only 4 weeks ago where there was a famine declared in Gaza governorate. So you have a catastrophe now on top of that catastrophe, and the impact on children's physical health and mental health is extraordinary.
The only bright spot for some on the ground and their families here in Canada is the news that the Canadian government is recognizing Palestine as a state.
I represent my family, represent my cousins back home. We are all happy hearing this news.
But for Jewish Canadians like Raquel Look, whose son was murdered on October 7, 2023 by Hamas at the Nova Music Festival, the declaration feels like a betrayal.
For this to even be on the table while we still have hostages in the dungeons of those tunnels, while Hamas is still there, unacceptable.
In a statement posted online, Hamas called the recognition an important step as their remaining hostages and 2 million displaced Palestinians in Gaza continue their struggle to survive. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
U.S. President Donald Trump is among tens of thousands of mourners who gathered in Arizona for Charlie Kirk's funeral service. The conservative activist was shot and killed while hosting a political event at a university campus in Utah earlier this month. As Candace Cole reports, Kirk's murder has set off a fierce debate about free speech and political violence.
When he passed away, it was gut-wrenching. It really was.
I need to mourn Charlie, and I wanted to be with the fellow patriots.
Massive crowds lined up outside State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, as the sun began to rise Sunday to pay tribute to conservative activist Charlie Kirk amid heavy security protocols. Over 100,000 people attended Kirk's memorial service, featuring a who's who of MAGA Republicans and those who were close to him, recalling his life and his impact on the current political climate in the U.S.
The other side was terrified of Charlie because Charlie embodied the spirit of MAGA.
You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk.
31-year-old Kirk, who held deeply divisive views, was a rising star in the U.S. far-right MAGA movement and key ally of President Trump, who was in attendance. He co-founded Turning Point USA at the age of 18 and gained a following among young conservative Americans, welcoming debate among those who disagreed with his stances. He was widely seen as a champion for those on the right.
I really like Charlie Kirk because I feel like he spoke to me, or he spoke for me. He said the things that I wish I could go and tell everybody.
A staunch defender of gun rights, once saying some gun deaths are worth it to preserve those rights in the U.S., Kirk was gunned down nearly 2 weeks ago during an event at Utah Valley University, leaving behind 2 children and his wife Erica Kirk, who has been named the new CEO of Turning Point. Kirk's killing has given rise to increased concerns over free speech protections in the United States, as many who expressed less than sympathetic views about Kirk's death faced personal and political retribution, most recently the suspension of late-night host Jimmy Kimmel for his commentary last week. Those attending Kirk's memorial say his killing will not stop their movement. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
A cyber attack is still disrupting travel at several European airports. Check-in and boarding systems were targeted at London's Heathrow Airport and in Berlin and Brussels, delaying and cancelling flights at those hubs. The attack forced passengers to check in with pen and paper for the second day in a row. There is no word on who's behind the attack. Officials say disruptions could stretch into Monday. A major shift is underway in Canada's beer industry. Moosehead Breweries confirmed this past week that it's phasing out bottled beer. The company's distinctive green bottles have been used for nearly 50 years. Heidi Petracek explains why it's making the move, how Trump's tariffs factor in, and why some other breweries are not following suit.
A brand as old as Canadian Confederation is saying so long to bottled suds. The distinct green glass bottles used by Moosehead Breweries since 1978 are nearing the end of the line.
When I started in the beer business 32 years ago, 90% of the beer that was sold in Canada was sold in bottles. Now it's 7% of the beer is sold in bottles and 85% is sold in cans. The consumer has moved on to cans.
And I remember being in Norway and seeing a Moosehead bottle in the store. So it is very iconic.
This beer garden owner's preference?
I am a can person. It's easier in a backpack. It's easier to take. You know, you go to the beach, you know, it's just easier.
They're lighter and light-proof, protecting the amber ale inside. As for the cost of aluminum versus glass,
Works out to be about the same on the bottle versus can costs. There's a little bit of savings on can shipment costs versus bottle shipment costs.
Although Donald Trump's tariffs on raw Canadian aluminum have complicated matters.
A 50% import tariff has pushed up the benchmark price that most aluminum can manufacturers are paying by 200%.
Beer Canada, which represents the industry, says that hasn't been passed on to consumers yet, but a federal program paying counter tariffs back to Canadian can makers ends next month, and the 2% cap on the beer tax expires next year.
We could see a sustained above inflation rate of beer prices into the future.
Although not everyone's getting rid of glass, like Toronto's Steam Whistle Brewing.
We really are dedicated to that bottle. It would really be a shame to see it go, because it's what makes us different.
When it comes to taste, beer drinkers are divided.
Cheers. And as long as it's cold, I'm happy to go.
There's no difference in taste at all.
Well, I'm definitely going to like the bottle a little more, less tinny of a taste.
Moosehead recommends enjoying its brew from a glass. Its last bottle rolls down the line in December. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Striking a chord. Coming up, the Quebec man who went from being a nonverbal autistic child to a powerful advocate for change. A Quebec man with autism has spent his life beating the odds and breaking barriers. Stephen Atmey is a music composer, producer, public speaker, and advocate. And he is hoping to improve mental health services and education for people living with autism and other disabilities. As Felicia Perillo explains, his powerful message is striking a chord.
Music has always been Stephen Atmey's favorite form of expression. As a young child, he was nonverbal and struggled to find his way socially and in school. After being diagnosed with autism, his family felt devastated.
The nurse had the audacity to look at your son and say, your son is not normal because of his behavior, because of how he reacted to the test. That's my experience with trying to get him help.
What you heard are...
Now, at the age of 32, he finally found his calling as a musician and an advocate. Through a powerful letter sent to every provincial health minister across the country, he tells his story and spells out a better path for others. His 5-point proposed legislative framework for access to autism services calls for more support, resources, and funding for all Canadians living with disabilities and their families.
It's not just, you know, about talking and making it happen, or we want real change. Actions speak. And that is something that everybody needs to understand.
So far, ministers in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Saskatchewan have responded, saying they'll consider his proposal. For Atmey and his family, the goal is to ensure no one else ever feels abandoned like they did.
If you only knew what he was like, he literally couldn't say 2 words. And for him to be so eloquent and so And he's advocating for other people. That's what gives us the biggest amount of pride, is that he's trying to be the voice of other people.
Special people have dreams, and I believe anybody can make a change. Families, do not give up.
A powerful message that's already striking a chord with many families across the country. His hope now is that his plan will lead to action. Felicia Perillo, Global News, Laval.
Ahead, RV trends paint a picture of why more people across Canada and the world are choosing to forego travel to the U.S. Our defending Olympic champions were denied gold today, but still managed to snag the silver medal in the 4x100-meter relay at the World Athletics Championship in Tokyo. The race was down to the wire, but the U.S. got its revenge after our sprint team upset the Americans at the Paris Olympics. Another possible bellwether surrounding the current state of our relationship with the U.S., with data from the Border Policy Institute confirming a significant drop in cross-border travel in the spring and summer. The recreational vehicle industry also seeing a change reflected in RV sales and rentals across Canada. Taya Fast has more on whether that trend is expected to continue in the fall and winter.
BC's largest annual RV show rolled into Abbotsford this weekend, but beyond the new models on display, the spotlight is on changing travel trends.
People are staying in Canada and exploring Canada. For us in Fraser Ray, we've noticed a 32% uptick in our rentals.
An RV rental platform says the same thing. More Canadians are vacationing close to home, while international visitors are choosing Canada over the U.S.
Traditionally, we'd have about 25% of our Canadian rentals enter the United States, where this year that's down to 8%.
Industry leaders say uncertainty in the U.S. and the ongoing trade war are keeping more RVs and their dollars on this side of the border.
And our RVs travel and spend approximately $200, $250 per day in the communities. All that money staying here locally.
But while rentals are booming, RV sales are lagging.
Sales overall, I would say, for the industry and across Canada, were down about 9% from last year.
Still, show organizers say the excitement hasn't slowed.
We see those that know exactly what they're looking for and going straight to that section or to that RV, but there's those that are browsing and kind of deciding, which is what makes the show so amazing, because you have all the different types available under one roof.
Looking ahead, the industry expects the popularity of rentals to continue.
We see people book quite early, like 12 to 18 months in advance of their vacation. And we're already seeing those trends that we saw here in 2025 already getting booked for 2026.
This Snowbird RV show and sale is expected to draw around 9,000 people, giving visitors a chance to plan their next adventure on the road. TFS Global News.
Next, Hope Air's free private jet service for low-income patients who need to travel far from home to access health care. Medical appointments can come with several unexpected costs, and that's especially true for people who need to travel large distances for help. Catherine Ward has more on one charity that is bridging the gap, one flight at a time.
Ed Johnston loves to fly and has been airborne for 49 years and counting. Most recently in his PA-32.
We've used it for visiting family in Halifax. We've been in the Bahamas with the plane.
But when his plane can help someone in need, Ed says the flight is even better.
We all think we have universal access to health care, and the reality is we don't, either from distance, difficulty of travel through distance, or financial challenges.
Ed is a volunteer pilot with Hope Air, a Canadian charity that helps patients get to medical appointments no matter where they live.
So I've done about 12 or 13 volunteer flights now, usually about 1 or 2 a year.
We have patients who were employed last year and lost their job. We have patients where there were 2 members of the household earning a living and one got laid off.
For 7 years, Margaret Noland lived with excruciating knee pain at her home in Cochrane, Ontario, 730 kilometers north of Toronto.
I couldn't do anything.
The growing isolation hard to bear as she waited and waited for surgery.
It was rough. I was always alone. It was rough.
But the real plot twist came when the surgery was finally scheduled.
I was ready to cancel my appointment because I didn't have a ride.
Paying for a flight was impossible.
I had to go on welfare. I had to live on $300 a month for the first couple years, and so I'm thinking, how am I going to get this?
But Hope Air stepped in and got her to Toronto for the surgery so she could have a chance to walk without pain.
I couldn't believe it was true, like just, Cole, is this real? You know, we're really going?
In 2024, Hope Air flew more than 13,700 flights for patients in need. And this year, the demand continues to grow.
We've seen 100% plus increases really ever since the end of the pandemic, where there were long wait lists as patients struggled to get their hospital appointments.
Accommodations and meals are also covered, and in addition to private planes, people can get booked on commercial flights.
Hope Air really helps patients almost holding their hand from the moment they leave their front door to the moment they come back home.
Margaret has since flown to have cataract surgery.
Watch this, no problem.
And says her life is a lot better and certainly more hopeful.
Because I feel so good. Yep, I feel so good finally.
Catherine Ward, Global News.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Ann Gaviola. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Black Creek, BC, Riding Mountain National Park, Manitoba, and the Petitcodiac River in Riverview, New Brunswick. Please keep them coming. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.